All right, get this. We're diving into the Jack the Ripper case today, but with a bit of a twist. We're taking a deep dive into George Hutchinson.
Yeah, he's a real head-scratcher, like a ghost story from Whitechapel.
It's eerie. Like 1 minute he's there, the next, poof, gone.
Exactly, vanishes from the records, like he was never there.
So we're going to rewind a bit. London, 1888, right? Fears everywhere. Jack the Ripper's on everyone's mind. Then Mary Kelly, the final victim. And days later, this guy, George Hutchinson, just strolls into a police station.
Out of the blue.
Says he saw Mary Kelly with a man the night she died. Sounds helpful at first, right? But the more he talks, the stranger it gets.
Well, everyone wanted to be the one to crack the Ripper case. Right. It's his timing. Immediately suspicious. But it's the details he gives. It's almost too much.
Okay, hold on. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, remind me, why is his account so important? It's not every day a potential witness just vanishes.
That's the thing. He claimed he knew Mary Kelly. Friends for years, he said. But after giving his statement, poof, gone. No death records, no trace. It's like he walked into the fog that night and never came out. So all we have are his words, frozen in time.
All right, so we've got this potential bombshell witness who pulls the disappearing act. That's our mystery box. Let's open it. What exactly did Hutchinson tell the police? Give me the rundown of that night, according to him.
Okay, so November 8th, 1888, just a few days after Mary Kelly's murder. Hutchinson walks into the police station and claims he saw her with a man around 2:11 a.m. on the night of her death.
Okay.
He describes their meeting in detail, even says Mary Kelly asked him for sixpence.
He remembers that.
Yeah. Said he told her he didn't have it.
Wait, he remembers that specific detail. That's interesting. Most people wouldn't recall something so small from a random encounter, let alone one that happened in the dark hours of the morning.
Exactly. And it gets even more intriguing. He goes on to describe the man Mary Kelly was with. And not just a vague description, he gives specifics. The man's height, build, his clothes, even the color of his eyes, the type of buttons on his coat. He remembers the guy was sporting a stylish Astrakhan fur collar.
Whoa, hold up a minute. This isn't just, I saw a guy with dark hair,
Yeah.
level detail. This is like, he's sketching a police composite with words. You'd think he was having tea with the bloke, not passing him on a dimly lit street.
Right. And it doesn't stop there. Hutchinson claims he overheard snippets of their conversation. Saw the man give Mary Kelly a red handkerchief. It's like he's trying to paint a scene straight out of a penny dreadful.
Okay, so we have either the world's most observant witness or what? He made it all up.
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's important to remember, memory. Well, it's a tricky thing. Especially in high-stress situations. Some ripperologists speculate that the intensity of the Ripper case, combined with the social atmosphere of the time, could have led to, some unintentional embellishment.
You mean wanting to be part of the story? Maybe exaggerating details to sound more credible or helpful. It's like when someone swears they saw a UFO and suddenly their story includes alien laser beams and Elvis piloting the spaceship.
Exactly. But on the other hand, some researchers point out that this level of detail, while unusual, isn't unheard of. There are documented cases of people recalling seemingly insignificant details during traumatic events.
So it's possible Hutchinson was telling the truth. He just happened to have an insanely accurate memory.
It's possible. But here's the thing. The police, they were actually pretty impressed with his statement at the time. They even put out a wanted poster based on his description of leather apron, as the press dubbed him.
Leather apron. That's wonderfully ominous. But hold on. If the police thought he was credible, why does his story raise so many red flags for ripperologists today? It's like they wanted to catch the Ripper so badly, I don't know, maybe they saw what they wanted to see,
And who could blame them? With all the pressure they were under. But yeah, you've got to remember the context, right? It's 1888. We're talking about Whitechapel. A maze of a district, poorly lit, people everywhere, at all hours. Not exactly a recipe for a perfect eyewitness account.
So even if Hutchinson was trying to be honest, the odds of him remembering everything perfectly, down to the buttons, pretty slim.
Slim, yeah. Especially given how long it took him to say anything.
Right. Because Mary Kelly was murdered on November 9th, right. And Hutchinson, he doesn't give his statement until the 12th.
3 days later.
That's a long time. If I knew someone, even just someone I knew casually, and something that awful happened to them, I wouldn't wait 3 days to tell the police.
Exactly. It's one of the biggest questions that's puzzled ripperologists for well over a century. Some people think maybe Hutchinson wasn't as close to Mary Kelly as he said. Maybe he knew her casually in passing, but then saw a way to insert himself into the investigation.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate. Say Hutchinson is making it all up. What's the motive? Why go through the trouble of concocting this elaborate story and risk getting caught in a lie?
Well, there are a few theories. Money's always a good place to start, right? There was a reward being offered for information leading to the Ripper's capture.
Right, of course.
And, well, Whitechapel wasn't exactly the Ritz. A big reward. That could be tempting, right?
A chance to cash in on the chaos. What else?
Well, there's another theory, a bit more sinister. Some people think Hutchinson was involved in Mary Kelly's murder, or maybe even knew the Ripper himself.
Whoa, hold on a minute. Are we saying he was the fall guy or Jack himself?
There's no hard evidence to back that up, but the theory is Hutchinson knew the police were getting close, so he decides to get ahead of things. He creates Astrakhan Man as a distraction, tries to divert attention away from himself.
Clever but risky. It's like trying to hide a tree by planting a forest around it. Wouldn't the police see through that?
You'd think, right. But remember, it's 1888. Forensic science is, well, it's basically non-existent. The police, they rely on eyewitness accounts. And as we've been discussing, those can be pretty shaky.
Yeah, it's like that fog that covered Whitechapel was hiding everything, wasn't it?
Exactly. And it gets even more complicated. You see, there are actually some inconsistencies between what Hutchinson told the police initially and what he later told the newspapers.
Oh, okay, give me the details. What did he change for the press?
Well, in his police statement, he says he followed Mary Kelly and the Astrakhan Man to Miller's Court, saw them kiss at the entrance, and even overheard some of their conversation.
Okay.
But then, in one newspaper interview, he puts himself right outside Kelly's window. Says he watched the whole thing go down.
Wait, so which is it? Was he lurking across the street or, like, getting a front race seat to a murder he didn't report for 3 days?
Right. It's a pretty big difference. Maybe he just got confused. I mean, the pressure of the situation, the reporters hounding him, could have just been a mistake. But it's also possible he was embellishing his story a bit for attention.
The plot thickens. It's like he wanted to make sure everyone knew he was at the center of it all.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the Ripper case, right? The lines between fact and fiction blurred. Newspapers,
Uh-huh.
full of crazy stories, rumors, everywhere. It's understandable how someone could get caught up in all of that, maybe get a little carried away.
So we've got these potential motives, right? And unreliable memories and a good dose of, well, Victorian drama. But at the end of the day, the police, they never found this Astrakhan Man, did they? Was he just, I don't know, a figment of Hutchinson's imagination?
It's the question that's haunted Ripperologists for, well, since it happened. And there's no easy answer. No one matching his description was ever found. Some people say that proves Hutchinson was lying, that he made the Astrakhan Man up to, throw the police off his trail.
So he basically invented his own Kaiser Soze, Ripper style. Wow, that's ballsy. Even for someone maybe trying to cover their tracks.
Right. But there's also the chance that maybe Astrakhan Man was real. Just some guy who had the bad luck of being seen with Mary Kelly on the worst possible night. Maybe he never even knew what happened, never came forward.
Talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It makes you think about how many other lives the Ripper touched, even if they weren't victims.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to George Hutchinson, right? Because
Wow.
after all of this, he just disappears.
Vanishes. No forwarding address, no sudden confession, nothing. You'd think someone connected to a case this big, this famous, would leave some kind of trace.
You would, wouldn't you? There are theories, of course. Some Ripperologists think he skipped town, changed his name, started a new life somewhere far away from Whitechapel.
Can you imagine carrying that around with you, knowing what you might know, being connected to the Ripper, like something straight out of a story?
It really is. And that's kind of Hutchinson's legacy, isn't it? He's a mystery, a shadow. Was he a good guy with a bad memory? A liar looking for his 15 minutes of fame? Or something. Darker.
We might never have those answers, but by looking at what we do have, by digging into the history, we can at least try to understand what was happening back then. It's like we're putting together a puzzle, but some pieces will always be missing.
Exactly, and that's what makes history so interesting, right? The missing pieces, the unanswered questions. It keeps us asking, keeps us searching.
So anyone listening who's ever walked those streets, think about George Hutchinson for a minute, the ghost of a witness, tangled up in the mystery of Jack the Ripper. And who knows, maybe one of you will uncover a clue, a new piece of evidence that everyone else missed. Because sometimes history likes to surprise us.